Good morning. Good morning. This is Price Action Live. We are going to trade the open here for NASDAQ futures, gold. We might take a look at crude this morning as well. But we are trading prop firm accounts and giving a test of how all of this works with TradersPost. In general, TradersPost is a platform where you can automate strategies and also automate indicators, but you can also trade on a discretionary basis from alerts and, in my case, lines from the chart, and that will execute across multiple accounts at the same time. So this is a process a lot of people typically call trade copying, but we call it multi-account execution. Or account scaling, which is our favorite term internally. And the idea behind that is instead of it being like a leader and follower account, you would actually have a signal that comes from a platform like TradingView that executes a command off to our platform. And that command is basically a JSON message with rules about how it should be traded. So you can see here, when I send a signal off to trade something, it trades multiple accounts at the same time. So there is no parent and child relationship. Instead, there is a signal and then all the accounts connected to that signal, and they all trade in parallel. So we've got the open here. We're a couple minutes in right off the bat. It looks like there was a nice gap up from yesterday's session, which was an interesting one. Extremely choppy session. I had some winners and losers yesterday. Did you avoid any of this, Trevor?
I traded a couple evals yesterday. I
Okay.
stayed out of trading my funded accounts. Mondays aren't great for me typically.
Yeah, yesterday was not a great day. There were a couple of decent runs. This one right here, I took a pretty decent trade on. But otherwise, this back and forth choppy action was difficult to trade around. So this isn't a huge gap up this morning. 0.3 percentage points. I'd like to see a little bit larger of a gap if I'm going to short it. Give it a couple of seconds here, though. It looked like this could be a continuation of the downtrend we're already seeing here, but it bounced right off. I mean, literally wicked the bottom of the linear trend here on the 2-hour chart. It's amazing how reliable this tool is. I'm also keeping an eye on the anchored VWAP from the last pivot points on the 2-hour chart as well. I'd like to see, at least yesterday, those served as really good support and resistance zones, and it respected the anchored VWAP there. Looks like in the electronic session, though, it closed above, or tried to close above, that anchored VWAP and ended up pulling back again. So that may serve as support. So I have a few different lines created today. I was experimenting with a little bit different of an approach yesterday, and it actually worked really, really well. I had a decent scalping session in the last hour of the session. What I'm doing is I have multiple lines that are set up for the smaller MNQ contracts. So this would be, I'd use this red line for a short on MNQ, and I can keep adding to my position there. Man, it looks like it really is going to close this gap. Let me actually get this alert set up. So I'm trading MNQ from the NQ chart, but I'm telling TradersPost I want to trade MNQ by setting the ticker and manually hard coding it here. And then I am going to use my all accounts webhook. Make sure that is set up properly. Not a very speedy open here, but I'll give it one contract. We'll just see where it goes.
This is a short.
This is a short below VWAP, 4 minutes in. Usually I'd wait a little bit longer for something like this, but I'll take a small risk. So this is going through the all accounts strategy. And we can see here, I have all of these prop accounts connected to that strategy. And we just sent a signal through to affect 27 accounts all at the same time. If I look at the alert log here, if you're curious, that just triggered this alert here to trade MNQ 2025. Action is sell. It sent off the price at the time, and then also sent the time that the alert was triggered, and that alert was triggered from that horizontal line. And this instruction with the time and the price allows take profit and stop loss orders to be configured as well. But it also has the ability to tell the difference between the time that the alert was triggered and the time that we actually executed with the broker. So we can actually tell you that delay as well within TradersPost. If I look at the details here, you can see here that this is when the alert was sent and this is when it was received. So we can actually time that difference between the two.
And this is a free indicator that people can use.
Which indicator?
Dotted lines.
They're not even indicators. They're actually just drawing tools right on the chart. You can do Alt H and make a new line. What I like about the lines is that you can make default text for them, right? And when you make that default text, when you make an alert from that default text, it'll actually use that text as the message for the alert. So it allows me to, always keep my messages sort of prepared for any of the alerts I'm going to set up. I try to reset my alerts each day too, and reconnect my webhook URLs, because I'm obviously live streaming, and that webhook URL is an important and usable URL by anybody. So I reset the webhook URLs at the end of the session so that nobody can use my webhook URLs.
So smart.
So we're off to an interesting start here. That green line was that anchored VWAP that I was referring to on the regular session. But it's a tight range here now that it's trying to test. If we break below this green anchored VWAP and push a little bit further down, I think there's room for about 70 points of movement here before we retest the linear trend. This isn't a very strong downtrend in this channel right here, so I'm not expecting fireworks, but if there's any money to be made, it'll be a little bit of money within this gap. You seen anything on your side, Trevor?
Not really. Let me look at my chart. We're definitely on a downtrend on the 5 minute. On the 1 hour.
Yeah, let me move.
Yeah, it's kind of mixed.
This is my other automated strategy. This is a strategy that trades the VWAP from open and holds it as long as possible unless it gets triggered to a stop loss. Otherwise, it'll trade it all the way to the close 5 minutes before the market closes. And there's not a long signal yet. It took a long yesterday and took a loss, but previous days it's had plenty of winners. It's about a 50 to 60% win rate on this one.
Yeah, mixed signals across the board.
Yep. Still below VWAP though. So Tom asks in the chat here, the daily VWAP is about to cross over the weekly VWAP. Is that usually bullish NQ? Usually the other way around. If the shorter term daily VWAP, oh, that's what you're saying. Yes, I would say that would be typically bullish, but it just depends on where price arrives as well. So I like this initial trade. My original entry was off of this cluster of candles here, and it's about to test this anchored VWAP. So I want to keep an eye on whether I'm going to add to this position now. We'll close the rest of this. Open gap. So this is a new feature. I don't know if you've noticed this. Trevor, we now have all of the accounts that are connected to your strategy listed within the strategy dashboard, along with the P&L for each one. So I can actually make this my dashboard. I have a habit of going to the actual dashboard, but I can just go to the strategy and it only shows me the subscribed accounts.
Oh, that looks awesome.
One step further to an all-in-one dashboard. Now we just need the TradingView charts and I can trade from there.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
It's like a little bounce, maybe.
A little bit.
I thought for sure yesterday we were going to bounce back up, but just never could break back over the opening range.
Yeah, it was a weird trading session yesterday. I think the other thing that really threw me yesterday was the multiple attempts to close above VWAP. And each time it did, it would just immediately reverse. So by the third one, I got used to it and I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure sellers are coming back in. So I'd wait for these like low ATR zones. And this one was just incredible. I had started a scalp right around here. And I added to that, I think 2 or 3 times. And all my scalps went into profit within just a few seconds because of this candle right here.
Jeez. I always think of that scene from, you've seen Get Out, the Jordan Peele, when he at the end when he keeps throwing his leg, the brother keeps blocking the door with his leg. So like on the third one, he stabs him in the leg. I always think of that and like those. It's gonna do it. It's gonna do it. It's gonna do it, and then it's like boom.
Yep. It's always worse. I think the market feels that way too. Everything comes in threes, right? So like, no. Okay, this is the third one. Ready, guys, go.
And you can almost like if you we go to breakout and you long it and it starts to die and I'll say I'm like, are we really doing this right now? And
we're really doing it. All right, I went ahead and added to my short there. We can see in the alert log I had a second sell message come through, and that's going to send that second signal through to my strategy here. So now you can see I'm short 2 contracts across all these accounts. It's interesting. What happened to these guys? That slippage is interesting. There's a pretty big oh, I see it now. Never mind. It just took a second for the system to load the deltas. So price is moving against me. And I thought that there was a big difference in the P&L between the top accounts and the bottom accounts. It's just because price has already moved. All right, so this will be a small position that we are managing. I'm going to put my exit line here. Oops, that's the wrong one. This guy. So we'll manage about 40 points of loss on this.
What confused me about yesterday was just the tariff pause. I'm like, all right, tariff pause. Again, this is bullish. And then it was just like, Japan, you get a tariff. You get a tariff. And I was just like, wait, what? No. I thought it was supposed to be easy today.
I'm trying not even to pay attention to any of it now. It feels like not only is it not very predictable, but the market's reaction to it can be surprising too. So wherever price action shows up is where I try to trade.
You just take what you can get and
take what I can get.
Go away.
Try to read what the market is saying about it. I think forecasts in general, economic forecasts in general, are rarely very successful. Even just doing valuations on companies tends to be rarely successful these days, just given the amount of meme trading that seems to exist out there. But then my thought on where price action goes is much different. You know, you can really kind of see the sentiment in the chart, even on the daily and weekly side. Hey, Aventura Trader, how are you, man?
Got another live one. I like that profile picture. Makes me feel happy.
All right, so it's really testing that 2-hour anchored VWAP here, and it's rejected off of it a couple of times now, which I like to see. But I'm going to watch for a close above that, and of course the session VWAP to see if I want to get out of this position. Still no long signal on the automated strategy, and we're still nursing a really small loss. Going back to micro Bitcoin. Got it.
So what's your signal for long then?
For Bitcoin?
No, for what we were just MNQ.
If price is closing above VWAP. So directionality would always just be the other way around. I would be looking for signals above. So like this session here, here's the orb, and this breakout here above VWAP would have been a long. Bitcoin is definitely going up. So Tom, let us know in the comments here if you end up opening a position. We'll keep an eye on Bitcoin as well, on futures. Definitely a different open on Bitcoin for sure. Which is interesting because Bitcoin tends to correlate to the NASDAQ quite a bit. I think my issue with the regulated crypto futures contracts is how thinly traded they are. I like the highly liquid contracts and not a lot of gaps between each candle, but Ethereum and Bitcoin futures contracts just don't have a lot of volume.
That's why I've tried to stop trading overnight sessions, or even just the 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. It's like especially on a prop account, you go to enter and all of a sudden you're instantly down 5 points and you're just like, that wasn't where I wanted it to be.
Or even worse, you experience some kind of slippage to your entry just because there's nobody on the other side of your trade.
Yeah.
Aventura Trader says he doesn't think you've seen this indicator before. Are you referring to VWAP or the gaps or the anchored VWAP? I can highlight each one here, but I use the VWAP indicator called the VWAP, which is made by a friend of mine. And this one's pretty fantastic because it has the bands built in, and I like how he colored the range or the band between price and VWAP as well. It kind of gives you a nice visual cue for whether we're in a red zone or in a green zone above or below VWAP. But then he's also measuring the slope of the VWAP line. So the line will actually change to red if the slope is in the right direction. Let me know which indicator you're referring here to. I have manually drawn lines on the chart here for anchored VWAP. Essentially, I've anchored it from the peak from the 2-hour chart and from the previous pivot on the 2-hour chart. And that's sort of our tight zone here where I'm looking to see where the market responds to anchored VWAP. Got it. I figured that was the indicator you were talking about. It's the VWAP, all one word.
I like the higher time frame ones where you kind of are on a lower time frame, but that's illustrating something from a higher time frame. It's always helpful.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the multi-time frame analysis, and mainly because I'm a huge believer that the markets respond more favorably to support and resistance zones on the higher time frame. As you watch where clear support and resistance zones start to show up on at least the 2-hour chart or 1-hour chart, but anything typically above 2-hour, 4-hour, 1 day, those zones are very well respected on the lower time frames. All right, kind of a boring open here. So far, I would even consider this sideways. So let's start to measure out the orb. For those of us paying attention, this is our boring opening range breakout. I'd like to see price move outside of this purple box before we start getting interested in where direction is. This is kind of what happened yesterday too. It felt like there was an opportunity to trade a little bit of the opening few minutes, but it just couldn't seem to break outside of that opening range breakout. So my box here just went on and on and on for a while until it finally broke down here. And I thought we had found some direction, but then it just chopped the rest of the session. Today could be something similar. So we do have consumer inflation expectations coming in. That could have a little impact on price action, but probably not much. For the most part, there's no real heavily important meetings until tomorrow when we get the FOMC minutes. And I didn't see any earnings reports that were going to impact the NASDAQ or the ES by any large degree this morning either. None of the big guys are reporting this week. Progressive, but still fairly small. There we go. All right, so from here, I have 2 contracts short already, and I'm just going to hang on to this trade for a bit. But I'm not really interested in adding to it unless we can break outside of this orb. As usual, I'm trying to manage the potential for loss, and I try to spend a lot of time thinking about what that loss might look like. It's the one thing that I can manage. I can't really manage how much profit I'm going to take because the market could give me all kinds of upside. And I don't really predetermine where my take profit is. I go as far as the market's willing to go. But the stop is something completely in my control. So we are measuring out about 35 or 36 points of loss, which on 2 contracts is only about $120 or $160.
Yeah, I need to do stops. I think stops might be a fun addition to the old tool bag.
They're pretty important.
Like, what's wrong with me? It's just like, God, it's unlimited loss, and it's like, damn, if I could just stop the losses. What I don't like about sometimes with the prop accounts, just with when an account is closed, it's just kind of like goes away. Mm-hmm. So unless you're religiously downloading that data, it's very hard to like pull out anything meaningful over time. I would love, like, $1 million idea would be analytics, where you could just pull in every single account that you've ever traded on, and I could go like, wow, like this is over 100 evals or 100 PAs, like this is what I did. Mm-hmm. I'm sure it's probably what we had said before. The same with you. It's like either my winners are instant winners or my losers just go horrible very quickly. I don't have a lot of winners where it goes horrible and comes back to break even.
Yeah, this is a perfect example of that. This should be a winner in my favor right off the bat. I mean, I'm already holding this a little longer than I'm comfortable for, and it's starting to show signs that it might push above that anchored VWAP as well as the session VWAP. So I'm ready to exit out of this position pretty quickly because it's already starting to feel like a loser. So this will be trade 1. I'm going to journal a little bit on the side here and get a screenshot of my initial open here. My thought on the analytics side is that we can definitely do that at TradersPost. We can start keeping an eye on all of the trades that take place across the accounts. The problem with the prop accounts is that once they're closed, we no longer have access to the data on the account. And what people tend to do is they do a little housekeeping and they delete those failed accounts from TradersPost. Well, the moment you delete that, it's going to delete all the order history along with it. So we may need to figure out some kind of process for giving you the option of retaining your order history so that we can keep track of your P&L, and you've always got this, history of accounts that you've added to the platform, even if it's just like closed. So like maybe what we could do is make it to where you can mark the account as closed. And by marking as closed, we don't actually make any requests to the broker anymore. But we will keep and retain all the history that was there. Because there's no question, like journaling has always been an incredibly effective tool for me. It helps me discover where my biases are, where my mistakes are. It ends up being the reason I'm able to make these slight tweaks to my approach so that I don't get myself in trouble over and over again. Because there's no greater finding in my mind than the fact that the costs of trading, the losses of trading are far more devastating than the gains are. So to be able to flip that on its head was the big transition for me, figuring out how to just control the losses.
For some reason, it's just like a mental thing where I'm like, well, if I realize a loss, there's just like no coming back from that. But that makes no sense because I'll blow an account and that is just devastating. And I always come back. The next day, I'm just like,
here we are again.
Ready to trade. Where's my account kind of thing. But if I like realized a $300 loss, that would just be somehow that would be the top. And I would never be able to make back that $300 and somehow it would just spiral into losing the entire account. It makes absolutely no sense.
I think that's
I've done that before where I've gotten locked out. There was one where I started a PA like at 3:45 or something, and the day closed it out, and I lost like $160 or something, and then just instantly made it back the next session and was like, okay, I just tried to make the 160 back, and then I was back in action. But
right,
I need to be better at that.
It's sort of like, I guess in my mind, I think of them all as independent events, just like roulette, right? Like there's no memory on the roulette table. You can place a bet, lose on that one hand, but then you place the bet on the next and you always have that chance of winning. So each trade is sort of the same thing. If we have an edge to our approach over the long run, for me, I've got about a 40 or probably about a 50 to 60% win rate. Let's just call it 50 to be fair. And with that 50% win rate, I make money because my wins are usually much larger than my losses are. My losses are tight and controlled. And then when I take a trade for the upside, I usually try to ride it for as long as possible. And so that puts me at about a profit factor of around 3 or 4 at a minimum. Just depends on the season. Right now, the season is chop. So I'd like to get to a point where on the higher time frames, we're finally in a downtrend again. Like this trading shorts, which is, definitely where my bias is. It's tough to do in an uptrend like this, but when we can actually get a downtrend established, it's going to look a lot cleaner. I'll be able to ride these trades for a lot longer.
Mm-hmm.
All right, coming back down to the other side of the orb. Let's see if we can finally break out of this thing. Interestingly, this is the other setup I've been using in tandem with my longer term holding shorts or longs, that are tightly controlled. I've also got a really small scalping strategy. Small's not the right word. It's a tight scalping strategy. So because I'm on the NQ chart, yeah, we'll say we're basically trading one NQ contract. Because I'm on the NQ chart, I can trade MNQ and NQ at the same time. So I have a set of other accounts that I've connected to TradersPost that have their own webhook URL. And essentially, if I see a strong enough signal, I can send this trade off to trade NQ on those accounts. And let me show you what this looks like. So the alert for that one is this guy. I'll sell NQ. My stop loss is 20 points and my take profit is 10 points. And the reason for the sort of asymmetry there is that I want to leave enough room for price action to move, but I also want to take profits really quickly. So this is an alert that will make $200 on the profit side and lose $400 if I don't catch the right signal. So I have to have a pretty high win rate in order for this one to work. In the past, as I've been experimenting with this, I seem to be somewhere around 70 or 80%, which is just enough to actually make money with that approach. But I tend to, there we go. Nice. Finally broke down below the orb. I'm going to go ahead and add to this position here. We'll see if we can actually fill the opening gap here. So in by 3 contracts, up around $75 across most of these accounts. All right, cool. I like this price action on the 5-minute chart as well. Looks like it's finally breaking below those anchored VWAPs that I had set up on the 2-hour chart. I'd like to see it break down just a little bit further from here. I may not get my way, Trevor.
Was there date? Did you say that there was data at 10 or no?
At 9,
No.
we had. It's not a huge report, but we do have the consumer inflation report coming in 59 minutes.
Interesting.
I'm sorry, not report. It's not consumer inflation data. It's just the expectations. Interesting. All right. So not a clean break below the opening range here. If we push up and retest VWAP, I might add one more contract there. But I like this pullback. This is enough of an initial signal to tell me that there's some potential for downside, and we might actually close this gap. No long signal on my automated strategy, so this one successfully avoided the trade so far.
What?
I did. It was very loud, but also,
oh, sorry, my bad.
We didn't know that you liked clown juice.
Mute myself.
Nice. All right, cool. That's good to see. So a little bit of a retest. I'd like to see where this 1-minute candle closes, but it looks like we might be continuing from here. Tom, can you elaborate on in the comments? What is the straw action? Interesting. Gold fell this morning. There it is. It looks like Bitcoin's decided to follow suit, chase after the NASDAQ and start trying to close below VWAP as well. Oh, the straw action. Yeah. Trevor straw. For some reason, I thought Tom saying the straw action was some kind of like chart-based move that I'm unaware of. Like, teach me the straw action, Tom. I'm too in the zone, guys. Sorry, my brain's Man, this open is boring. We need some movement here. Is there a correlation between BTC and the NQ? There is. Let's go take a look at the BTC chart. Actually, let me pull up the main BTC contract here. Get a little bit cleaner of price action. On the 1-minute chart, I use the correlation coefficient. So that would only be the last 120 minutes. But essentially, the correlation between the two is 0.83 right now. So I'd say, yeah, it's pretty highly correlated. Straw futures. Interesting open for oil. I've been keeping an eye on this one because oil is such an interesting range-bound asset. tends to range between two major prices between $55 and $75 a barrel. Excuse me. And right now it's pushing against this $68 zone. It's a little bit tougher to trade. I still haven't quite found a strategy that works for me because I'm more of a trend follower than anything. So this has been an interesting trade, but it feels like the best approach here is something mean reverting, basically trading overbought and oversold zones on the probably 15-minute chart, but looking for key support and resistance zones on the daily and 2-hour chart as an area for opportunities. So I'm kind of waiting to see where it goes around the $69 to $70 price point before I get involved. And I can't tell what gold wants to do. But it's not surprising. It's kind of one of those things, right, where the moment everybody talks about how gold can go up forever, it starts coming down.
It's a top indicator. The minute that we started talking about buying it at Costco, we should have bought it at Costco.
Costco gold bars. Aventura asks, is one leading the other? This is in reference to the question around Bitcoin and NASDAQ. I don't know how to answer that one. I'll be honest. I really think that for the longest time, I felt like Bitcoin was an uncorrelated asset. And if you measured it, it certainly was. But these days, it feels like Bitcoin is more of a risk asset. And so I'm pretty sure that the stock market leads everything now. I mean, it definitely wouldn't be the other way around, right? Is the stock market affected by the price of Bitcoin? Not so much. I wouldn't think so. There we go. All right, so we're pulling back to test the bottom of this linear trend on the 2-hour. This like support area is going to be pretty important to me to see how the market responds, because if it decides to pull back further and reject off of that point, that's pretty good for my trade here. It's just not a very fast pullback, we've almost closed the gap here. So I'm not looking for precision on this trade. I just want to see how far we can go. Great, good breakdown so far. Check the dashboard. So we're up about $160 on this trade across 27 prop accounts, including some of the two prop accounts that I have with the futures desk as well.
Nice work.
Oh, that's good to know. Aventura Trader says that his strategy is just open to short, so we've got some confluence here. I'm curious if anybody else has gone long or short this morning.
What's the tilt say? Top step here. 70% short, 30% long.
Interesting. I'm curious with the tilt. It's an interesting indicator. Obviously, it's very illuminating. But with it, how far back does it go? Is it just current open positions? Is it?
I think it's current open positions on.
Okay, so it is open interest.
Yeah.
Got it. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I mean, this is definitely forming a decent short. So let's take a look at where this might retrace here. If I'm on the 5-minute chart, I'm looking for areas where I think buyers might show up. And right now we're at a 50% Fibonacci retracement. I tend to get interested if it pulls back to the 0618 line. So that would be at 22,852, which interestingly happens to line up with the bottom line of our linear regression. And it would basically be this bottom candle right here from yesterday's session. This song we have playing in the background feels like we're playing Sims. But like late 90s Sims.
You ever do SimCity? I never got into Sims. It's more of a SimCity.
That's actually,
Sim
definitely
Tower.
where I started. SimCities or SimCity.
SimCity, Sim Tower, some
Along with
ants.
Myst. Yep.
Oh, Myst was scary.
Was
that
amazing.
movie, that game scared the shit out of me and my brother.
Oh man, it
was
was so
a
well
scary
done.
game. Yeah.
And such a clever way to do it. They were like, well, we can't render these frames in real time, so why don't we just give you one frame that we take forever to render? And
remember
each
that
time,
like water like opened up like water like on like a path, and it would like open up. Yeah, it's wild. It was a fun game.
Yeah, very fun game. And for the time, it was like, I don't think any of the youngest generation will ever appreciate how lo-fi and low quality all of our stuff was back then. They're never going to see a CRT monitor again and never understand that like the first game I played as a kid in 6th grade was this like IBM based green screen airplane game that was all shot 2-dimensionally and used the computer speaker to make the airplane noise. That's about as lo-fi as you can get. It's really bad. Tom says 22,852 is also right at the 3-month VWAP. Interesting. Tom, you measure out VWAPs way further than I do. That's an interesting measurement there, 3-month VWAP. Are you doing it like actually, Tom, do you mind laying out what VWAPs you're actually measuring across the board? I know you have many on your chart. All right, this is a breakdown, but it's a breakdown in slow-mo, so we're going to be taking a while here to get the profit we want out of this trade.
Breakdown in slow.
Well, I didn't have my eye on gold this morning. I didn't realize there was going to be a better short over here. 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, and 3 month. Very interesting. Thanks, Tom. I might add those to my chart as well.
There must be like a multi-time frame VWAP indicator.
I mean, there is. If you use the VWAP, you can choose your time frame on it. So you can, but it doesn't do 3 month. And fair point. Tom says equity trends in 3-month increments. Yeah, it tends to be true, especially as earnings come out every quarter. But is your VWAP pegged to like earnings season, or what are the 3-month increments? Just curious. Okay, so I'm going to pull my stop in slightly. Let me go check to see what my average entry is. We're roughly about 22,899 on average. So I almost am in a spot where I'm able to turn this into a break-even trade. I'm not quite ready to pull the stop that close, so I'm going to pull it one candle off here. So we reduced the stop down to 25 points, which is a much smaller trade now.
Nice.
Oh, yes. Tom says his indicator is multi-time frame. Well, Tom, I don't know if your indicator is public. Is it called the Tom VWAP? Is it Tom's VWAP? What's it called? I got to put it on my screen here. Aventura says it's always sunny when Mike streams. So that's good to hear. Also, one of my favorite shows.
Do something.
There are mornings like this that are just slow to move in general, but clearly trending the way I want. And I always think of that meme that was circulating a long time ago during like crypto winters, where what's the poking Bitcoin?
Yeah, the stick
meme.
Do something. Yeah.
Come on, do something. That's my favorite one. Tom says it's private. Sorry, boys. This is nonsense. Like, where do I need to pay? Do I need a credit card? Come on, Tom. All right. Great question here in the chat. Crimson Trader asks, good morning. What is the feature called that allows the mirror trading to multiple accounts? We don't actually have it named as a feature. It's essentially a built-in function of TradersPost where you have a concept of strategies. In this case, this is my strategy that has rules built into it for how things should be traded. What are we trading here? Is trading futures? What tickers it is allowed to trade? So on and so forth. And that strategy can have multiple subscriptions. So in this case, for this particular strategy, I have 27 accounts connected to it. And those subscriptions can take that same incoming signal and trade across all those accounts at the same time. But it can also have independent rules. So let's say on one of these accounts, I want to override the incoming rules and trade a slightly larger quantity. I can do that here and save that for that one account. So this allows you a lot of granular control over the rules for each of these accounts and how it should be executed. But we don't have it named anything specifically. It's just strategies and then subscriptions to those strategies.
And you could trade it in by having it hooked up to an automated strategy, obviously, how most people do it. You could do it how you're doing with lines and still alerts being fired from TradingView, or you can do it manually inside the submit signal screen.
Yep, all correct. All right, it is not wanting to fall as fast or as violently as I had hoped. It looks like it kind of bounced almost off that 0618 on the 5 minute. We're still showing support for the higher time frame linear path or regression trend, if you will. And it's still kind of showing support on that anchored VWAP. So this price action here has me a little concerned we won't continue to break down, but I'm gonna watch to see what happens around VWAP here. The session VWAP is basically my leading indicator. And if it ends up rejecting there, then I'll go ahead and close out this position at a small loss. Crimson Trader says, amazing. This allows a small scalping strat to be quite large. That's exactly correct. I do have on this same chart, I do my own scalping strategy as well. If price action is where I'd like it to be right now, it is not. Then I'll use these larger lines here to do a scalping alert, which goes to a different strategy on TradersPost through a different webhook URL. But essentially, the rules for that entry dictate that I'll sell a contract and I would set my stop loss at 20 points and my take profit at 10 points. So when that message comes through to TradersPost, it will trade all the subscribed accounts connected to that strategy. So I can scalp across 10 or 20 different prop accounts at the same time using this strategy. Just bear in mind that take profit and stop losses only work that way if the broker supports it. In this case, these are with brokers that are, prop firms that are on TradeView, and TradeView does support bracket orders. Well, unfortunately, this little downtrend is starting to weaken. My favorite tool is the regression trend tool, as that gives us an analysis of price distributed across time and within 3 standard deviations. And it has its own built-in Pearson R score. And that R score, I like to see it at around 70 or 80 at least. As a sign of a continuation of a trend. If it starts to pull back and that score starts to come down, it's usually the sign that we're losing that trend. And if it starts to get to below 50, then my odds are not really in my favor anymore. This tool I'm using as well, which largely is built by measuring pivot points, is something I'm trying to turn into an automated strategy as well. It's finding these pivot points is the tricky part, but something Tom might be able to help me with.
Do you come into every day with some sort of bias, or you're just looking at pure price action?
Pure price action for the most part. There are biases that will come from things like major support and resistance zones on the higher time frame. Definitely, like obviously my bias should be bullish. We are still in a bull market right now. We're still on an uptrend. We're well above the 200-day moving average now, and we're hitting all-time new highs. So I don't have a bear bias, but I will put on shorts if the direction of the intraday trend is in the short direction.
Cool.
I think what's gotten me into the trouble though is that I have a very strong affinity for shorts. I like short selling more than I like longs. And the reason for that is typically that there's more panic with shorts than there are, sort of fast melting up environments on the longs. So if you're going to get into a long, you can be into a long all day long sometimes. I had a really good long the other day. This guy, excellent long that just kept going and going and going. And then the rest of the session, it just kind of held sideways, which is fine. I just held it all the way through. But with shorts, you can usually find these zones where if price rejects off of where you expect it to, there's a really good move that can happen very quickly within 17, 18 minutes. And you've made a decent profit in a short period of time. So I enjoy shorts more than I like the longs. That said, I know that the market is bullish, so I need to be heavier on the long side than on the short side day in and day out. And I guess the other issue with the shorts right now is that the moment you're in a decent short, those buyers can just show up and come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And they usually come in right at those key support areas. So this may be one of those trades where buyers have already started to find support, and I'm going to have to stop out pretty quickly here at break even.
When you catch one of those like Ode the Humanity kind of SPX puts where it's just waterfall and you're like, oh, like everyone always gets out too early, but it definitely moves faster on the short side than it does on the long side.
For sure. And I tend to do really well on those. I like to think of it like surfing waves. You're basically looking for a setup, and you're not trying to take every wave. You're looking for the right one that you're going to feel good standing up on and be able to ride it all the way to the coast. And when it comes to the short side, those are fast waves, and I like those. They're a lot more fun. Look at that. Tom's a sweetheart. Thanks, Tom. I got access to Anchors, which is the VWAP tool that Tom uses. I don't see any notification yet, so I'll keep an eye on my notifications. All right, well, if this was support, then it would be off of this bottom candle here. It's just not a very good uptrend yet. So I'm not too worried about getting out of my position just yet, as there would be a stronger uptrend than there would be a downtrend. I'd like to see it above 0.7 or 0.8 in order to really feel like that's going to happen. So right now, this is just sideways action. Still below VWAP, still below my anchored VWAP, which was previously support and is now starting to reject off of that support zone. Yes, Tom, my username is the same as my X account. It might require that I refresh the screen in order to see your alert, though. I don't know if the notifications come in as real time. Let's see on this page. Yeah, I don't see anything yet. I appreciate the compliment there, Aventura Trader, and would love to check out your live streams as well whenever you're ready to go live. I'm curious which recording or streaming software did you decide to use? We use Restream, but then we also have a custom setup internally as well. Peter and Tom set up a pretty cool setup with something called Video Ninja, but then we run it all through OBS. That is what I'm talking about right there. So we're about ready to head to that 852 price point that I mentioned earlier, which is the 0618 Fibonacci retrace. And I want to see how buyers might respond to that price. We're about ready to touch the bottom of that linear trend on the 2-hour chart. So I might have a little more room on this trade and then I'll take profits. So right now from the dashboard, we'll refresh real quick. Up 252 on this trade on 27 accounts. It's called Econ Live. Interesting. I don't think I've heard of that one. Cool. We'll give this one a look. We're always looking for good tools. All right, this is good to see. So my short is picking up some momentum now. Wait, Aventura, is Ecamm Live terrible, or you just said the experience was terrible? What was tough about that 5 minutes of talking? I think the a good mic always makes a good difference as well. I think we had we sent mics to everybody, obviously, but Trevor's got a new mic. I've got my new mic here.
Hello.
And microphones make a big difference. Couldn't have been that bad, Aventura. I'm very curious what your stream is. If you want to share it with the crowd here, feel free. We're always interested in connecting with everybody out here, and I try to keep an eye on all the people I've connected with in the trading community to see what they're up to. One of my favorite streams now is the guy Tyler Godel that we interviewed on our show. He's got a live stream he's doing on Twitter as well, and man, he just brings the energy. I wish I had half of his energy in trading. So sure enough, look at that bottom wick there. That was that 0618 line I was referring to. Buyers are starting to show up right there. I think I'm going to go ahead and take profits here. Okay, so that was my exit signal across 27 accounts. The beauty of TradersPost is we can keep an eye on your P&L from your entry to your exit as well. So you can see if I click on any one of these trades here, I'm up $172 on that position on 3 contracts across these accounts. Simple and clean. It doesn't, the P&L process doesn't work for Project X accounts because we don't know what your actual fill price was, but you can see it if you log into your Project X account, it would be there as well. And you can keep an eye on the incoming trades there as well. But that was it. So that was a quick little simple scalp for me, $172 across these accounts. There's probably room to go a little bit further, but this is usually where I try to cut off my trades. If there's a nice opening range trade, I'll take that, and then I got to get ready for the morning and get meetings in and that kind of thing. So
work.
Yeah, actual work. Trading the open is fun for about 90 minutes, and then I got to get out of here, which kind of sucks because there's occasionally great trades that last a lot longer than 90 minutes. But this one was slow and grow. We made a little bit of money in the morning here, and this is the process. Just show up to the market every morning, try to make a little money, manage that loss, manage that risk, and keep doing this over and over again, and we'll creep very slowly closer and closer to a goddamn payout.
Good accent, hopefully.
I think that was the right place to get out. What do you think? Maybe. Might turn around from here. And that's usually what happens. All right, cool. Well, I'm ready to wrap up the stream here. We got to get started on some other meetings this morning. But it was great checking in with everybody here. Thanks again, Aventura, for showing up. Tom says, go max long now, Mike. All right, cool. So let's scalp out at least 10
easy.
points.
You just go long when you long bottoms, short tops. Perfect.
That's all it is. Just go long all the time. No. I probably will take a few more scalps today. I'll be looking for these types of inversion zones. Essentially, the way I like to do the scalps is I'll measure out the linear trend on the 1 minute chart here. And as a new trend starts to form, like this one right here, When it starts to break inside of this zone, let me get where's my drawing? I can never remember where the dumb, we'll just do the dot. What's the dot for? God, these tools are dumb. Demonstration. There we go. All right, this zone right here. If we start to show signs of pushing past the top of the top band of the regression trend from the previous downtrend, then this is where I might try to open a scalp to go long and take those 10 points of profit. But I'm looking for these short inflection zones where, there's clearly a reversal of some kind, and I can get into the beginning of momentum of a new trend and take profits early. So there could be a 10-point move in here at some point here today. I don't know if it's right now, Tom. Maybe from here to here, but I don't know. I don't have the confidence on that one. What is the indicator that shows red under your candles or green on the uptrend? All right, let's clean this up a little bit so I can show you guys, because this has come up twice on the session here now. I use an indicator called the VWAP.
TrendBot. I need to give you TrendBot access.
Yeah, let me get TrendBot.
What's your username again?
It's Mike Christensen, where all the E's are 3s. If you guys want to see me send me free indicators that are normally private or paid, I am always willing to accept and try them out on the stream here as well. Here's my username in the video here. Yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking that was the right place to get out. It's continuing upward. Anyway, this one's called the VWAP and made by a buddy of mine. And it's a really nice one. It's got built-in bands around it as well. I have those turned off. I'm just interested in the range between the two, and I like the slope color of whether or not the trend is in an upward or downward direction. I tend to be fairly easy to please there. But my buddy runs the VWAP.com, and he's got a number of tools and indicators that he's built there. Cool. I think that's it for us. Trevor, anything else you want to cover?
I don't think so. I gave you access to TrendBot and X indicator from TradeBeacon.
Awesome. We'll take a look at those too then.
Okay.
All right, great. We're going to show up again tomorrow morning. We'll see you guys on the stream tomorrow. Cheers, everyone.